Welcome back to Hearthstone Arena Play, but we're doing something a little bit different this time, and I'm pointing at you to show you just how different it is. I talked in the last video about hoping to upgrade our software a little bit, and now I have a better recording program. We're going to use the webcam that I have that we've used for a couple of filming options. Not a lot, but a couple things so far. Hopefully the whole thing looks better. The resolution should be better. It's just Hearthstone, so we're not worried about, oh, the graphics have to look great. But we are starting with these three choices for the arena. They're not very good, are they? Look at them. Last time, we got 11 wins with a shaman, and the only other time I've gotten more than 7 wins was also with a shaman. It's not available here, but I think we're going to go Druid. I do not like the hunter in the arena. It's okay. And the priest, I don't know. I've mentioned it before, but I think the priest seems annoying, and you certainly can run into some things where if they get their combinations working with things like Inner Fire and other nonsense that they might draft, you run into trouble. But the 1 or 2 times I've played them, I don't think it worked out that well for me. So let's take this Druid and go pick by pick and see what happens.
Protect the wild.
I must protect the wild. So we start off with a rare. Naturally. And all three of these are good choices. And it's really coming down to Sunwalker or Reaper of the Grove. I think, or Reaper, that'd be funny if it was just a killer deer. Keeper of the Grove. I think I might go Keeper of the Grove. I think its versatility is too strong. 2 damage is great, its stats are good for a 4-drop, and the silence option can't hurt. And the versatility, I think, is going to be key. If we could get these as commons, it wouldn't be such a big deal, but this might be the only one shot we have at it. And a Sunwalker's nice, but not that nice. And away we go with the more complicated picks. Dread Corsair is not going to help us much without, weapons. Magma Rager is awful, really. I mean, too many hero powers can just destroy it. So I guess it's Unstable Ghoul? I mean, I don't love the pick. And this is what happens in Arena, right? Sometimes you don't love the pick, but we're going to go with it. Here, the Booty Bay Bodyguard is not very good. The Stormwind Champion can be. And the Spiteful Smith is better with a weapon. Its stats are still okay for without, but I think we'll take the Stormwind Champion. Here's the concern that we have. We have some bigger mana targets that we're going to want, right? Like the Ironbark Protectors, the 8/8 Taunter for 8. So if we take the Stormwind Champion here, our curve's going to start accelerating upwards. But the other 2 options are also high mana. So it's not like it makes a huge difference. Let's take the Stormwind Champion and hope for good things later. Look at these 3 picks. All 3 of these are cards we would like in our deck. Chowan Yeti, as mentioned before, maybe the best card in Arena. Just too solid overall, certainly as far as commons go. Starfire is also good, one of the better Druid cards. And the Worgen Infiltrator is not bad either, especially as a turn 1 play, because you get to run it into a lot of 2 health, 3/2 drops on turn 2. Without really knowing how our deck's going to be constructed, how many spells we're going to have, what our curve's looking like, I think I just got to take the Yeti, because again, I've never regretted playing a Yeti on turn 4. Here we have a couple of the middling Druid spells. Savage Roar, certainly nice. Especially when constructed, you play that with Force of Nature, and you just do a whole bunch of damage real quick like. Here, I mean, because it includes yourself with the hero power, I think we have to take Savage Roar, and we're just going to hope to get the good things to build around it later. Wild Growth is okay, but unless you're coining it out, or I guess playing it turn 2, but even then it's kind of a weak turn 2 play, you don't get a lot of value out of it. You can also play it on turn 10 to draw a free card, but then it's really just 2 mana for 1 card, which is okay. But everything about the card is really just okay. And screw the Wisp, that's never happening. Well, none of these choices are spectacular. The Darkscale Healer is okay. The Murloc Raider is super boring unless you're in a Murloc deck, which we are not. And the Jungle Panther is okay at best. I guess we'll take the Darkscale Healer and not love it. Here we're going to pick up a Starfire because we don't have one yet. I don't know if we want to. We'll see how it kind of plays out. The Bluegill Warrior is okay. As a charger, you can drop it on turn 2 and do a lot of what we just talked about before, running into a bunch of 3/2 type drops. And the Murloc Tidehunter seems good because it gives you 3-2 a value for 2, but it's really not. We're going to take a Starfire, though. This is automatically Swipe. Swipe probably the best card in the Druid deck in any format, but certainly in the arena. Any kind of removal is great. And this removal does a little bit of everything. It helps pick off weaker enemies and also target some higher-powered ones. So if we get like 3 or 4 swipes, I'd be happy. Seeing 1 this early is good. We want to see more. Well, they're trying to give us Murloc options. We didn't go that route. The Nightblade is, I mean, okay at best. Kind of mediocre. The 4-4 for 5 is not terrible stats, but the 3 damage to the hero, it's one of those things where I play that in my mage deck because I'm looking to do a lot of targeted quick damage. And in this scenario, that's not really what we're doing. So I'm probably going with the Razorfin Hunter, even though I don't love that. But, you know, we have a couple things going for us like Savage Roar or Stormwind Champion that would benefit from the additional minions. So out of these 3 choices, I think that's the pick. Here, once again, we have 3 really good picks, and it's tough to go wrong with any of these in Arena because the Sunwalker's great, the Knife Juggler works great with a lot of low minions, which we don't have a lot of yet, and the Azure Drake is always solid. We're going to be looking to get some nice benefit out of the Azure Drake. That makes our Swipe especially potent. It helps Starfire a little bit. So we're going to take the Azure Drake. I don't know of a deck that doesn't really want these. Even decks that can't use the spell damage to the greatest extent still get a 4-4 for 5 with drawing a card. So here we're going to get our curve a little bit lower. The question is, how do we want to do it? And I'm not taking the Elven Archer. It's really a question of Zombie Chow or Leper Gnome. The Zombie Chow can be quite annoying in the early game, and you look to trade it with other minions so that the Death Rattle doesn't even hurt you in the first place. The Leper Gnome is also annoying, though, and it runs into 3-2s just like everything else. I think we're going to take a Leper Gnome because I don't really like Zombie Chow that much. It has its benefits for sure, but I'm not a huge fan. Okay, well, we got both Ancients in 1 drop, and a Faceless Manipulator, which is good. In this spot, I think the Ancient of Lore is just too versatile and too good. The Ancient of War essentially always gets played like a 5-10 with Taunt, unless you're looking to clear out something real quick like, or you have a clear board or whatever, but the 10-5 doesn't help you much. But the Ancient of Lore's effects are both solid in the arena. You don't really want to use the Restore Health, but if you have to, you can. So let's take an Ancient of Lore. These picks kind of suck, but the Mad Bomber's not bad, so we're going to take him. It's a 3-2 for 2, and his Battle Cry can be handy, especially if it happens to hit your opponent 3 times in the face, or hits his creature that has 1 health, or even 2 health, or even 3 health if you get super lucky. So we'll take the Mad Bomber. Okay, another, whatever these are, epic, legendary, I forget what they're called. So obviously we're not taking the Murloc War Leader. That pretty much goes without saying. Even though it is a 3-3 for 3, that's just a waste of a pick. The Mountain Giant is nice, and we're going to have kind of a mid to late game build, so we're going to look to have, 5-6 cards in our hand come turn 5 or 6. Faceless Manipulator works nicely with quite a few things. Copying our own minions that are good to extend our advantage, copying our opponent's minions that are good to take away their advantage. My concern about the Mountain Giant is that it's going to get stuck in our hand. And so, because we're already looking kind of big on the curve, 5 mana drops better than potentially an 8 or 9-1 or worse. I think we're going to take the Faceless Manipulator and try and get the maximum that we can out of it by copying whatever we can that's best. Here, Stormwind Knight's not bad, Wild Growth we talked about, but I want at least 1 Ironbark Protector. Again, we have to be very careful not to make our curve too high, but 1 I don't think is bad. Now they're going to, of course, make this very difficult for us. So we have a couple options here. In the arena, we can go for suboptimal stuff because we're not running against constructed decks that are completely efficient and every draw counts. So if we commit to making the mid to late game matter, all we have to do is make sure we play our cards carefully in the beginning so that we make it to the mid or late game without being too far behind on board or in life. All 3 of these picks are solid. The Raging Worgen is a 3/3 for 3 that can get better. The Starfire we already have one of. It's great in single target removal and helps us get through the deck. And the Iron Bark we talked about. I think what I'm going to do is split the difference and take the Starfire. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know if you can go wrong with any of those picks. We'll see if our choice is wrong eventually. So Secret Keeper doesn't do us any good. The Wild Pyromancer is a 3/2 for 2 with an extra little effect that could be handy with things like Swipe or whatever. And the Questing Adventurer, if we were going to play a lot of cards in a turn, can be quite good. We do not have that kind of build, so I guess we're going Pyromancer. In this spot, I think Claw is the best choice. The Murloc Raider is awful, especially not in a Murloc deck. In one, it can be serviceable. Innervate, not bad, and it fits with our bigger drops that we're looking at. But more importantly, we're going to want to keep the board clear in the beginning. And this is sort of like removal. It allows us to attack 3/2s and say, hey, that's not happening right now. Get out of here. So we're going to take at least one of those. This choice, I'm taking the Bloodfen Raptor because we want some early board presence. The Dancing Swords, I'm not a fan of. I don't think the 4/4 instead of like a 3/3 for 3 is better when your opponent gets a card out of it. And the Wind Fury Harpy is not terrible, but we don't want any more high-end cards right now. Well, Murloc Tidecaller is a no. Imp Master can be quite annoying. Twilight Drake is too good to pass up on, though. At worst, you're still playing a 4/1 for 4. But more than likely, you're playing a 4/5, a 4/6. If you can get it to be above the Chillwind Yeti, then obviously it's better than the Chillwind Yeti. It's vulnerable to silence, but that's okay. Not the best choices here. You know, I'm almost tempted to take an Ironforge Rifleman, even though I don't like that card, because we've already talked about the Dread Corsair. We're not going to get value out of it. And the Raid Leader is better when we're swarming with minions. We don't have a lot of low-end minions. Even though this is only 1 damage, we can use it in conjunction with our hero power to do 2 damage to something, for example. We always have that option. So I think we're going here. I don't love it, but, you know. This pick, if I didn't have a Claw yet, I'd probably take it. But because I do, I want at least 1 Acidic Swamp Ooze. Anytime you can get that against a weapon, it's great. And if you can't, you're playing a 3/2 for 2, and that's not bad either, especially in Arena. You love that play almost every time. Or we could have gone all Wisps, so maybe that's my fault. Maybe I made a mistake. Here, we already have a Stormwind Champion, and I don't want to. Power of the Wild is nice because of its utility, because it gives you basically an option in the early game and the late game. If you play it turn 2, you get a 3/2 out of it. Again, we've talked about how that's the standard. If you draw it late and you have some monsters on the board, you give them +1/+1, and you get a nice benefit, especially because you can usually use it that turn. So we're going to take Power of the Wild. This is Druid of the Claw, and I don't even think it's close. Corehound is not good. Abusive Sergeant's okay, especially in low-end builds. That's not what we are. Druid of the Claw, a 4/4 for charge is okay, but it shines as a 4/6 with Taunt. So I guess we have to go Frost Elemental and not love it, because I don't want the Dancing Swords, and I certainly don't want the Tide Hunter. Is this where I suck it up and take a Dancing Swords anyways? We do have a Silence in our deck because of, where'd he go? Keeper of the Grove. So we could sort of have like a turn 3, turn 4 combination that prevents that from having our opponents get a card advantage on us. Frost Elemental seems handy every time I see it in Arena. Yeah. This is a Swamp Ooze, no doubt. It's actually kind of nice that we have 2 of those because it gives us the option of keeping 1 back to use against classes with weapons, or using both against classes with heavy weapons like Warrior. Here, probably the Youthful Brewmaster for all the reasons we've already mentioned. Savage Roar, we have 1 of, and I don't know that we want to. It is certainly not bad. I just don't think we have a need for 2 of them. So let's go here. This is an interesting choice. We already have 2 Starfires. So the question is, do we really want to go all in on the fact that we're just going to try and kill off threats on turn 6 and beyond? The Earthen Ring Farseer is also a solid card, and the health might help us. I think because of where our curve is at, we're going to go Earthen Ring. I still like the idea of a Starfire. I don't want a Stormwind Champion. Let's take the Earthen Ring this time. Here, we're going to take another Claw. I don't like the other 2 choices. We have 2 picks left. This one is very easy. It's definitely Keeper of the Grove. I have 1 pick left. I can't count. I can't math. Not a good sign for a game that involves math, huh? Well, this is our deck. I mean, if you scan it from top to bottom, it's not bad. The question is, how are we going to draw, and will our late game plays be effective enough to matter? We have a decent amount of balance here. We're a little worried about the high end of the curve, so we'll have to be careful how we mulligan, but it's not bad. So in the next part, we're going to start our arena run, try to get to at least 5 wins. That's the goal now. We're not shooting for 3 anymore. We're going for 5. If you don't like that, you can get out. But stick around, please.